Hey, welcome to the VeryVera show. You know, I'm getting so excited because New Year's Eve is right around the corner. And I hope you've got some big plans, maybe planning to cook a few things, have some people over. So this is going to be the perfect show for you. I know we're all thinking about maybe starting the new year with counting calories, but let's not do that until after New Year's Eve. I've got 3 great recipes for you. A shrimp and crab meat cheesecake that's not only beautiful, it is delicious. I'm going to do a dilly biscuit that you can use just by itself, or I'm going to do a crab cake that we're going to fry in the frying pan, do a wonderful remoulade sauce to go with that. These are all things that can be done ahead that are going to be very beautiful on your trays and will make for a great celebration. So join me today. I've got the kitchen all decorated with the silver and pewter. I'm in the holiday spirit, so join me. We're going to put together these recipes and have a lot of fun. Getting excited about New Year's Eve? I know I am, and hopefully you're going to have some friends over, or maybe you're invited to a party. Wouldn't it be great to take a special dish? You know, I love seafood, so I'm kind of going crazy with it today with shrimp and crab. And what we're going to do first is a cheesecake, a savory shrimp and crab meat cheesecake. So that springform pan, you know, that you only use when you're making that wonderful dessert for your husband's birthday, pull it out because you're going to need it for this recipe. And inside I've got my little butter papers that I love to use to get my pan nice and greased up. I love to use those instead of the pan spray. For one reason, it reminds me of my grandmother, and for another reason, it's just a way to keep the spray from going all over the kitchen. All right, the crust is very easy. This is Ritz crackers that I've just ground up by hand. I'm going to add to that about a half a cup of a freshly grated Gruyere Swiss cheese, and then finally melted butter. So you can't go wrong with these ingredients. I'm going to mix this up, and this is just going to be a nice crust that we're going to bake for 15 minutes in a 350-degree oven. So just make sure you've got all the components moistened, and then you're just going to pour this into your prepared pan. And I'm just going to take the back of the spatula and mash that down in the pan really well. Oh, and it just smells so good, the butter mixing in with those delicious crackers. All right, so I've got that nice and ready to go, and I'm just going to walk over and get this in the oven. And that'll stay in there for about 15 minutes. All right, so now the good part. I know some of us are thinking, I'm gonna lose weight after the new year, but just wait because you really wanna try this. I've got 24 ounces, that's 3 blocks of the cream cheese, and I've let this come to room temperature, and I'm gonna just blend this together in the bowl. And I've used actually using today the Fresh Market brand of cream cheese, and I'm really loving working with it. It's just delicious. All right, so to this, we're gonna add 3 eggs, whole eggs. I've got some red cayenne pepper, and then finally, I'm gonna do a half a tablespoon of Old Bay seasoning. And you know, for the longest time, I thought the only use for this was boiling shrimp, but I found out that it's a great seasoning when you're doing anything with seafood. So just blend this together. And then to this, once I've got this nice and smooth, I'm going to add in crab meat, shrimp, and the rest of that Gruyere Swiss cheese that I blended earlier. All right, so I've got, you know, when you go into the seafood department at the grocery store, you can either buy the lump crab or the claw crab. And on a dish like this, there's about half as much expense in the claw crab, and I actually like it in this dish. So I've got 8 ounces of that. I've got about 1.5 cups of the Swiss cheese. And then the shrimp are just the little salad size. I've got a paper towel in the bowl. I'm going to get the moisture out of that and add that in. And when we come back, I'm gonna be getting this finely mixed together. We're gonna pull that crust out of the oven, then I'm gonna show you how to decorate it. So come back and join me. All right, while we were gone, the crust has come out of the oven. It's just perfect. I've let it cool for about 10 or 15 minutes. And now, as you can see, the cream cheese and shrimp and crab mixture is just perfect. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna spoon this on top of the crust. And this is gonna go back into that oven for about 50 minutes. And what you wanna look for, of course, everybody's oven is different. I like to put this in the center of the oven. And then I just want to make sure that the top is nice and firm before I pull it out. You want a little bit of a golden brown texture to it. So I'm going to take my spatula and just evenly distribute that filling all the way around. And this is, again, very rich. This is going to serve quite a few people, and it's going to have that kitchen of yours just smelling great. All right, so this is ready to go back in the oven for about 50 minutes, but in the meantime, I want to show you what it looks like when it comes out. I made this earlier, and it's ready to go. I just took a knife, and I went right around the edges with my knife, popped open that springform pan, and there you have it. So now we're going to decorate it, and you know at VeryVera we're noted for our swirl effect that we do on top of our cakes. So I kind of want to do the same thing today with this cheesecake. So I'm going to take my sour cream, and I'm just going to start that little circular motion on the top, just back and forth. And this is just to give it just a little bit of a punch. And if you want to tint this sour cream, if you've got an occasion that requires, you know, particular colors, you can tint the sour cream. And then to finally finish it off, we're going to just take some spring onions. This is about 6 of the green tops, and I'm going to put those all the way across the top. So it really makes for a nice centerpiece and a delicious appetizer served with wafers or toast points. This will serve 25 to 30 people. All right, so let's move on down. We're going to start on the dill biscuits. And this is also a really great recipe, very easy to do. I know you probably have Bisquick in the pantry because you use it when you're making pancakes with the children. But these are going to be really good, very moist biscuits. This time of year, when I'm doing seafood, I love to use dill. And at Fresh Market, they have every type of seasoning fresh in the produce department in a little package like this. So with the Bisquick, I'm going to add sour cream. And this is just going to make these biscuits even more moist instead of the recipe that's on the box. All right, then to that I'm going to add melted butter. And this I'm just going to mix up just enough to just get everything moistened. And then on the fresh dill, and again, you can use whatever seasoning you like. Since I'm using seafood, I wanted to use the dill. I want to take it right out of the package and just pinch some of the nice pieces of the dill. And then with my knife, I'm just going to go through and make a real quick cut. And if you do this right at the last minute, you're going to get that much more effect of the flavor in the biscuits. And I want about a tablespoon. I'm going to add that to this. And when we come back, I'm going to show you how to flour your board, how you don't even have to use a rolling pin to make these biscuits, and how you can get your young person in the kitchen with you doing these recipes. So come back, we're going to be putting together a wonderful biscuit dish. All right, we're going to get to that recipe for these dilly biscuits together. And you know, I love to use fresh dill when I'm doing anything seafood. But as I said, if you were going to stuff these with country ham or something else, you could use thyme, rosemary, whatever you want. But it just really makes a wonderful biscuit dough. So what I'm going to do is lightly flour my cutting board. And I can actually do this on the countertops. These are those wonderful granite tops, and you can work directly on top of those. But what you don't want to do is overmix your biscuit dough. So I like to work with just a little bit at a time. And on the size of your biscuits, it's going to depend on the use of them. So I want to do a few that I can use as like a 2-bite appetizer, and I might want to make a few that are a little bit larger than that or smaller. So I'm just going to take my cookie cutter, and we're going to put these on a non-stick surface cookie sheet. But if you don't have one of those, you can just cover it with parchment paper or lightly spray it with cooking spray. All right, so these are going to be easy to put together. They can be done ahead and frozen, but these are going to go in a 425-degree oven for about 6 to 8 minutes. And as you can see, I've done a few ahead. These are a little bit larger size, but these can be frozen. You can pop them right in the microwave and they puff right back up. They're just really wonderful. So I'll come back to these in just a minute, but I want to walk down here. We're going to get started on the crab cakes. And this, again, is just a scrumptious recipe. I know my husband says a lot of times that he doesn't like to order crab cakes out because all you taste is all the other seasonings and not the crab. So this is a really good recipe if you want an authentic crab cake. Again, Fresh Market has either the pasteurized claw crab or lump crab. The claw is going to be much less expensive, and in a recipe like this works really fine. So I'm going to put about 8 ounces in this container. And before I add the cracker crumbs, I just want to break it up with my fingers and just kind of check for any shell that might be in there. And this actually looks pretty clean. The difference in the claw and the lump, you're going to have a little bit sweeter flavor in the lump crab. All right, to that I'm going to add about 1/2 sleeve of Ritz crackers. And again, this is, you know, the Ritz crackers. You can also use saltines. Sometimes I really like to use the saltines because the salty flavor kind of adds a little bit to this as well. All right, so I've got that all mixed in just right. I'm going to let that sit for a few minutes. Let me rinse my hands off. And I'm going to put together the other ingredients that go in that are going to make this stick together. We've got an egg, and I'm just going to beat that lightly with a fork. And then this recipe calls for mayonnaise. And you know how I am about my brands. A lot of times when you're using in any sort of a recipe like this that you're going to cook, you probably want to use a more upscale brand of mayonnaise just to make sure there's not an excess of oil in it or water, because that'll splatter in the pan. All right, to that I'm also going to add about a teaspoon of the Old Bay seasoning. And this is just gonna, again, enhance the natural flavor of the crab. And then I've got the zest of a lemon. And I got started on this, but again, you want to do some of this right at the last minute to get the peak advantage of the flavor and the aroma. I love to smell all of these ingredients when I'm working with them. All right, so I've got the zest of the lemon, and then I'm using the large leaf parsley. And just like we did a few minutes ago with the dill, if you're going to use the fresh herbs, you want to make sure that you do this at the last minute so you can really enjoy the freshness of that in the recipe. And I want to put about a tablespoon in this. And again, all of these fresh ingredients are just going to bring out the natural flavor of that crab. All right, so I'm just going to whisk this together, and I'm going to add this to the crab meat. And when we come back, I'm going to show you how to make these into nice little patties, and we're going to fry them directly in the pan right in some butter, and they're just going to be terrific. So come back and join us. Everything seafood, and Happy New Year greetings. I'm getting ready for another great dinner party, but I wanted to say today that there are 2 things that you should always avoid talking about at the dinner table. One is money, and the other is health-related issues. Let's talk about the money part. You know, when someone is sitting at the table talking about how much they paid for this or how much they made on something else, you know, it really makes everybody uncomfortable. So as the host or hostess, you should always try to maybe gently move into another topic just to keep it light and upbeat. The other thing are health-related issues, and I know we all have friends that when you ask them how they're doing, they want to tell you when they went to the doctor, every ache and pain that they may have, and certainly that's understandable. But at a dinner party, it's always best to keep it light, stay away from both of those topics, look forward to a wonderful time together for a wonderful meal, and just have a great time. Okay, we're counting down the days to 2013, and I know I'm counting down the minutes to enjoy what we've made tonight. Seafood, it's just been great. I've put together the crab cake mixture earlier, and I just want to show you quickly how you can shape those little patties. And this mixture is just really nice. The egg is really holding the crab cake together, but depending on whether you want to use it as an appetizer size or a seated appetizer size, that'll make a difference on how big or small you make the crab cake. So I'm just going to press a few of these out, but once you've completed this dish, you want to refrigerate this part of it for about an hour at least, just to get it good and gelled. You want to make sure that it's nice and firm before you put it in that hot butter. So what I've done is I've gotten a few made ahead of time, and I've got my skillet over here good and getting hot. I've got 2 tablespoons of butter in here, and I'm going to add these crab cakes just one at a time to the hot butter, and these are going to cook up for about 3 to 4 minutes a piece until they're good and golden brown on both sides. So while those are cooking, I'm going to get started on that remoulade sauce. So colorful and so pretty. I've put in mayonnaise, olive oil, chili sauce, celery, green onions, parsley. I've started on my zest of a lemon. I'm going to add a little bit more of that. And then I'm going to squeeze a little bit of that lemon juice to it. I love a nice tart remoulade sauce. All right, then let's add a few capers to that. This may be a little different from a recipe that you've been using. And then just a touch of Tabasco sauce. And those crab cakes are starting to sizzle and look really good over there. I'm going to mix this up. This makes a really pretty, nice and chunky remoulade. All right, so let me look at these crab cakes one more time. Those are working great. I'm going to turn the heat down on those so I can move down and show you how to put all this together. All righty. So remember those dilly biscuits that we made earlier? What we want to do with these is cut them in half. And I'm going to let this be an open face appetizer tonight. I've got the dilly biscuit. I'm going to spread just a little bit of the remoulade sauce on the top. I'm going to top it with the crab cake. And these are wonderful right out of the oven, but they're also good at room temperature. So this could make for a really nice appetizer. A little bit of that fresh parsley that we prepared, and I made some ahead, so let me just add a little bit of the remoulade to the tops of each of these. That's going to make for a really special dish. And I love when I'm choosing my serving pieces for the occasion. This, since it's New Year's Eve, I love my pewter. You know, you don't have to polish pewter, so that makes it really nice. And then the stars on here make this a great dish that I can use at either New Year's, 4th of July, or even for a birthday party. All right, so those are gonna gel up really well. And then as you can see, the cheesecake, I've sliced a little chunk out of it. You can garnish the inside of that or add some other things to it. But I'm ready to pop open the champagne and get started here. Woo! there it goes. That's gonna be great. So let me pour a little bit of this. We're gonna have a wonderful celebration. And I just want to say to each of you how much I've enjoyed spending this time with you. I'm looking forward to the new year together. I hope you'll continue to join me on the VeryVera show. Cheers. But I want to remind you to be sure to pick that designated driver for New Year's Eve. Make sure your family is safe. Also, get some goals for yourself. Think of some things that you would like to do this year, maybe that's a challenge. And best of all, think of things that you want to do for the new year. Tune in next week because I've got a very special guest. Someone from the Food Network is going to be with me on the VeryVera show. But as always, remember, whatever you do, do it in good taste, including celebrating New Year's Eve. Happy New Year, everybody. Cheers.